something that's pretty common sense. And you're explaining it, and you're even giving them the details and giving them exactly how and what to do. And they look at you and they go, "What?" And you're looking at these people and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by idiots." But what we don't realize is that what people perceive actually has a lot to do with their genetics. Now, let's look a little bit about genetics and what all that means. So we're going to be talking about the ambiguity relief process. Isn't that a cool name? And the brain's ambiguity relief process, basically what it does is it helps people to get clarity. And clarity is the foundation of trust. In fact, clarity is what makes us look at something and go, "Yes, I know what that is, I understand it." But if somebody doesn't understand you, sometimes, you feel less valuable. Has that ever happened? Have you ever been in a situation where you've got this really cool idea and you know what to do and you know how to do it and you're ready to go, and somebody looks at you and says, "That doesn't make any sense"? And so, the ambiguity relief process, in your brain is determined by a lot of things. It's determined by how much speed your brain process has. It's determined by how connected things are in your brain and information when it comes in. It also determines how much abstract or concrete perception you have. But the thing is that, we want people to change because for us, our perception is just so obvious. So what we're going to show you here today is a little bit about your brain party, to be specific. Now, clarity happens in 3 parts of the brain, but not every part of the brain has a party. So let's look at the cingulate cortex. See, the cingulate cortex, what they do over there, they just talk about speed, how fast you are, how slow you are, how easy it is to notice details, how fast you can get somewhere. Still, that's kind of boring, okay? But the hippocampus, that's kind of like a LinkedIn networking session. I mean, these guys, they're not really very much into partying. Basically, they just like to connect with each other, and if you're memorable, they'll put you into their database of long-term memory. Okay? But the real party happens in the prefrontal cortex. Isn't that exciting? I mean, think about it, because here's the players. Okay? First of all, you have the COMT gene, COMT gene, aka the bouncer. Then, of course, you've got your concrete DJ. This is the guy that basically makes sure that everything that you see has either got structure or detail or it's concrete. There's no abstract. And of course, you got the abstract DJ who's like, "Whoa, dudes." Okay? And then, of course, the very important ushers. So you have the alpha 2 usher who basically supports the seats or the receptors for the neurotransmitters. And then you have the DRD ushers. These also support different seats for different neurotransmitters, okay? And of course, if you're going to have a party, you got to have the party girls, okay? The party girls in this story are dopamine, because dopamine is cool. And of course, we also have the norepinephrine boys joining the party. And of course, once you've got all of these people together, what happens is that you create a function crew that basically carries out the functions of the prefrontal cortex. Now, what does the prefrontal cortex do? Well, first of all, the prefrontal cortex is basically in charge of making sure that you don't do stupid stuff. Okay? So it inhibits behavior that you know you shouldn't do. So for example, if your boss says something that you don't like, you don't say, I don't care, boss. You just go jump in the lake. I'm going to do it my way. Because the prefrontal cortex is helping you to inhibit behavior. Now, the other thing that it does is it also helps you to make decisions. It helps you to solve problems. And, of course, it's also helping you to do planning. Now, in the prefrontal cortex, what happens is also how much attention you pay depends also on whether it's abstract or concrete. So, let's find out what happens from going into the party. So first of all, you got the bouncer, okay? And he is determining how many boys and how many girls get into the party. Now once inside, though, that's where the action is happening. But unlike a normal party, you've got a little bit of a different scenario because, see, the ushers, their job is to make sure that all of the boys and girls that the bouncer regulates and lets into the party, that they have seats. Now, unlike a normal party where the guys and the girls kind of get together, in this particular case, it's the seat. See, the moment that either a guy or a girl sits down, they get a signal. And immediately it's like, woo, they get excited. And when they get excited, they emit electrical signals. Okay, and when they're emitting electrical signals, that basically helps the function crew to do the planning, to do the problem solving, to make decisions. So, the thing is that each one of these depends on how many boys and girls are in the mix. So if you've got more girls than boys, well, you've got a different mix, which means you've got a different DJ playing, which means that you've got a different perception of reality, a different way of getting clarity, a different way of making decisions, a different way of planning than other people might think is common sense. And so, let's look at some of these different ways. So, first of all, this is based on the colored brain model. And in this particular case, the red brain, the bouncer is going to be a little bit taller. See, because the height of the bouncer, the height or the length of the gene, actually is called a gene allele. And how tall they are basically determines how many boys and girls they let into the party. So, the taller bouncer, okay, red brain, he's going to let in more boys and girls, so they all get to go in and they all get seats. Why? Because the ushers always rush to make sure that they have enough seats for what the bouncer is bringing in, which means that the concrete DJ, he gets to play, because that's the right mix. Now, the next one is the purple brain. Now, the purple brain, you have more women, okay, that the bouncer lets in, but not that many men. But it's okay, because even though there's less people coming in, the ushers still provide the right number of seats. But this means that now these guys are having a concrete perception, a concrete way of doing things. Okay? Now, when you get into the green brain, now you're looking at more women. This bouncer likes more women than men, or more men than women. And so he basically lets in more men than women, and the abstract DJ starts playing, which means that the way that people are making decisions are more abstract, which also affects focus, because when you are more abstract in your thinking, you start to lose focus, or you start to get distracted a little bit, okay? And why? Because you're thinking, hey, this clicker looks like it could be a car. And you come up with crazy ideas that are from nothing, okay? And of course, with the blue brain, also, in this case, less women, less men in the mix, but Also abstract thinking. So, what does all this mean? Well, it means that when you are making decisions, people judge you. People are constantly judging you based on how you approach things, aren't they? Have you ever had people tell you, no, that's the wrong way to do it. This is the right way. Why? Because I've done it 100 times and this is the right way. This works. And you try it and it doesn't work for you. Have you ever, anybody ever cook something and somebody asks you for your recipe? Does it ever taste the same? It never tastes the same. Why? You give them a freaking recipe. I mean, come on. It's exactly, you got this much and you turn it for this much. It should taste exactly the same. But it doesn't, because you are in the mix. And so therefore, we tend to accidentally kill communication, not because we have just a different perception, but because we expect that other people can change to see the way that we do things and to understand our process. And we expect other people to also use our process because, obviously, our process works and it's common sense. That's why we kill communication. But here's the thing. The awareness of that, the awareness, the ability to understand, it's not changeable. It's the bouncer in your brain that's making you do this. You can't change him. You can't change the bouncer. He is going to regulate how many boys and girls go into your brain party. And that's going to determine how concrete or how abstract or how you solve problems or how you plan. He is also going to determine how much attention you pay, how much details you get, or how much structure you see, or for that matter, even if you think it's important. That bouncer in your brain can't be changed. And by accepting that, we create an opportunity to communicate. Buddha once said, life is suffering. But once you accept it, you transcend it. In today's language, what that means, shit happens, deal with it. And when we deal with it, when we accept it, when we accept that you have a bouncer that might be different than mine, and you can't change it, it's like, oh my gosh, I can accept you. Why? Because maybe you have blue eyes. And maybe I don't like blue eyes, but you know what? I can still accept you having blue eyes because you're still cool. And so, don't be a brain racist. Do not judge people by their genetics, by the color of their brain. Because that's what we're doing every time that we connect with somebody and we're communicating with somebody and they don't have the same perception as we do, we are being brain racists. Do you want to be a brain racist? Do you want to have the label, yeah, I'm a brain racist, yeah. Or do you want to be someone that can empower people, that can take people to higher levels using their natural talents, their natural abilities, their genetic foundation of how they see things and how they achieve things and how they can each succeed in their own process. So, don't be a brain racist. And of course, in order to make sure that you can actually use this and apply this with other people, you got to share. Share this information. Share these ideas with the people around you. Find out what kind of a bouncer they've got in their brain. Find out how you can synergize instead of have conflict, because your common sense is not their common sense. Thanks.